Mic'd up with the Jake and Kyle on a AFC title game, Red Friday edition. Thank you so much for joining us. Fulton gone today. He couldn't handle the stress. He could not handle the stress of an AFC title game plus KU Kentucky, K-State Florida. Just couldn't handle it. And so we go to the bullpen. We bring in Kyle Manthe running the show behind the glass for this Red Friday edition. That's an AFC title game. It's a long title, but it's an AFC title game, Red Friday edition of Mic'd Up. Thank you so much for joining us, Jake LeBon, along with Kyle Manthe. We've got so much to get to on this Friday. We're going to talk with John Sheeran of the Cincy Jungle, covers the Bengals. We'll get his thoughts on things. We're going to talk with Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, little neutral site. So we got the Bengals point of view on the Bengals are going to go to their second consecutive Super Bowl. We got a neutral site party where Jeff Kerr is probably going to pick the Eagles because he's an Eagles guy. And then we're going to hear from the Chiefs players and head coach Andy Reid. They will meet with the media around 1 o'clock. We'll try to carry that live for you on this edition of Mic'd Up. So be listening. As always, we want to get your thoughts on this. Hit us up on the Big O Tires text line, 785-272-9429. Give me your predictions. We know what's at stake. We know, and we've dissected it a lot. We have talked about it a bunch. Bengals offense, Chiefs offense, Bengals defense, Chiefs defense. Who's got the advantage? Who doesn't? Mahomes' ankle. How do you see it all coming down? Who do you got? You got the Chiefs, you got the Bengals, score. How do you view it? Let us know. Hit us up on the Big O Tires text line on this AFC title game, Red Friday edition of Mic'd Up. Before we start things off with the keys to the game and the Big Chief, we have got some very, very important news. Bengals head coach Zach Taylor says offensive lineman Jonah Williams and guard Alex Kappa won't play Sunday versus the Chiefs. Tight end Hayden Hurst is expected to play. That is some monster news in this one. We talked about it yesterday in who played for the Chiefs in the regular season, who's playing now. Flip it, same thing for the Bengals. We remember Kadarius Toney, Joe Thuney, and Jalen Watson did not play for the Chiefs. Those are 3 starters. Being out 3 starters is kind of a big deal. Well, now for the Bengals are without 3 starters, all on the offensive line when they played the Chiefs the first go-around. You had Jonah Williams, Alex Kappa, and La'el Collins. He played against the Chiefs in the regular season. All 3 are not going to play in this game. The Bengals offensive line completely shut out that Chiefs team. 1 sack, no pressure on Joe Burrow. This is a completely different situation going into this game. I mean, a complete different situation. Patrick Mahomes might have an ankle injury. We don't know what he's going to be labeled as. 50%, 60%, 70, 80. But we know this is that the Bengals offensive line is not near 100%. And if you are the Kansas City Chiefs and the Bengals strategy was to completely double team Chris Jones, don't let him breathe, and put everybody else, put Collins, put Kappa, put Williams on an island and say, go beat the other guys, it worked. To the tune of 26 of 31 throwing the football. And Joe Burrow dissected the Chiefs. I don't know if the Bengals can do that this time around. I don't know. If a backup offensive line, which has your two tackles, and your right guard can keep the Chiefs from getting any pressure at all, the Kansas City Chiefs defense and the Chiefs in general, you're not a complete team. You should be able to take care of business with 3 starting offensive linemen out. The Chiefs pass rush is better than the Bills. The Bills had a good pass rush with Von Miller. He wasn't playing on Sunday. Chiefs got Chris Jones. Chiefs are healthy. They're rushing the passer pretty well. They're forcing some turnovers in 6 straight games. That D-line now, this is a huge opportunity for that Kansas City Chiefs D-line. So that is very big for the Kansas City Chiefs. So that's the big news starting out. The Chiefs practicing right now. It looks like Patrick Mahomes is going to be a full participant again. We'll find out if Mecole Hardman, I bet Mecole Hardman will be listed as questionable, would be my guess, but we'll get that coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. But as we do every Red Friday edition, it's time for our Chiefs keys to the game. Turnovers are the number one key. We know that. Very simple. 13 turnovers that the Bengals have forced to just 3 that they have given up in their 6 games in the playoffs the last two years. That's not a surprise. So it is turnovers. But I'm going to take turnovers out of the mix, and I am going to go with 2 specific categories, and it is really on both sides of the football. The red zone. Get 7, not 3 on the offensive side, and find a way to force Cincinnati to make tough decisions. 4th and 5 from the 15. 4th and 7 from the 8. Make them have to make a tough decision. And every time they kick a field goal, it is a win. Red zone offense. You have got to score touchdowns. The Kansas City Chiefs offense has been very good in the red zone recently. You know who else has been good in the red zone? The Cincinnati Bengals. Red zone offense is my number one key in this one. And then the red zone offense for the Bengals. How do you handle the red zone? And then secondly, something that has not gotten talked about a lot. The Kansas City Chiefs defense, and this is more so on the defensive side, but third down conversions. The Chiefs have not done a great job in the playoffs on third down conversions. In the game against the Jaguars were very good on third down to the tune of 50%. How many times did the Chiefs have them in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, and the Jags ended up getting a first down? One time that I wanted to just absolutely lose my mind was 2nd and 18, and the Jaguars ended up getting a first down. Third down conversions, getting off the field. The Bengals have been excellent. Here are their last 4 playoff games. We'll start with the game against the Buffalo Bills. They went 6 of 10 on third down. That's efficient. That's moving the chains, 6 of 10. They went 7 of 13 against Baltimore. It's pretty good. Moving the change, over 50%. The Super Bowl against the Rams. They went 3 of 15, scored 20 points. That is not a coincidence, folks. And then against the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC title game, they went 8 of 14 on third down. You want to know what's hard to win? When you give up 8 of 14 on third down. The Rams forced them 3 of 15. Helps if you got a pass rush. They got 7 sacks in that game. 7 against the Bengals. Aaron Donald, Von Miller, game wreckers. How many of those 7 sacks were on third down? 3 of 15. Otherwise, 8 of 14, 6 of 10, 7 of 13. I mean, those are some incredible. That is 21 third down conversions in the playoffs in 3 of their last 4 games. 21 conversions. Force them to punt. Get off the field. Make the tackle. Get the sack. Get the pressure. Force them out of the pocket. Have them throw it. Bat it down. Tackle them before the line of scrimmage. 3rd down conversions are so big in this one. Fulton, he gave me his 2 keys before he jetted off. Turnovers, he says. Turnovers have been so big in these games, specifically for the Bengals playoff run. Protect the football and you win the game. Number 2, pressure Joe Burrow. Bengals have a banged up offensive line. You have to find a way to give Burrow and pressure him into early throws. If you let him sit in the pocket, he will carve you up, especially if the Chiefs play zone. Joe Burrow's a lot like Mahomes. You can't play zone against Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes. They will find the opening. Their receivers, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Boyd, they are too good. They are going to find the soft spot. You cannot do that. I think with these 3 offensive linemen being out, I think they're going to try to run the ball with Mixon and force the Chiefs to tackle and shorten the game. That is one thing that the Ravens did against the Bengals. They shortened the game. There was just 9 possessions for the Bengals the entire game. That's it. 9. You shorten the game. If you are the Ravens, you have a better chance of winning. And they would have won had they not botched it, I think, at the end. So pressure Joe Burrow. I think it's gonna be quick passes. I think you're gonna see, get ready for a slant route to Jamar Chase, get ready for a slant to T. Higgins, and they're gonna force the Chiefs to climb on the ball, and they're gonna force the Chiefs to tackle. 5-yard slant route, 4 yards of falling down 4 yards after the catch. That's a 9-yard gain. Can't have if you're the Kansas City Chiefs. Kyle, do you have a key to the game in this one? What is your keys to this one?
I definitely agree with you. Turnovers, they can't turn the ball over,
Okay.
Can't give the Bengals extra possessions, can't give them short fields especially. And the pass rush, they got to take advantage with all those offensive linemen out. They have to pressure Joe Burrow. That's what happened to Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl against Tampa.
Yep.
It was the offensive line that's just, you got to pressure Joe Burrow.
That's a good point. The Chiefs' banged up offensive line could not hold up against that front for the Bucs. The Bills' pass rush was not good. The numbers showed it. They were top, I think, 6 with Von Miller. That's how good he was. They were 25th when Von Miller went down. The 25th best pass rush. Of course, it's not going to get to Joe Burrow. But the Chiefs, second most sacks, second most pressures that this team can get after the quarterback. All right, Big Chief, who we look at. Fulton is going with Frank the Shark Clark. That's right. Says here, Jones is going to get a lot of attention. Every single game could be Frank Clark's last in a KC jersey. Time to step up and take advantage of your one-on-one matchups. Frank Clark is his Big Chief. And it's legit, because if they still try to do that same strategy of pinch down on Jones, Clark, Dana, Dunlap, and Furious George have to get home. And I think they should be able to every now and then against an offensive line that is playing 2 backups. They should. Let me know if this is a cop-out, Kyle. But my Big Chief is all the offensive linemen. Is that a cop-out? Like, I don't want to pick one, but if I had to pick one, it's Orlando Brown. Orlando Brown, you have a chance to completely change the narrative of your situation with the Chiefs these next 2 games. One, if you are terrific in this one and you don't let Pipkins get to the quarterback, if you don't let Hendrickson get to the quarterback and you play well, you get to the Super Bowl and you slow down Armstead or slow down Bosa or slow down Graham or Reddick or whoever they got up there. if you win, obviously, this game on Sunday, you can change the narrative for Orlando Brown. But the offensive line protecting Mahomes, even Andy Reid in an interview with Tom Brady and Jim Gray on his little podcast, he said, yeah, this is the offensive line. The offensive line got challenged by Andy Reid publicly. You don't go to the well all that time. You can't look at a guy and go, we really need you this week. We need you against the Raiders. Oh, we really need you this week. We need you against the Titans. You can't keep going to the well, right? And Andy Reid, I don't think, does that. But I think Andy Reid knows, okay, I got to pick my spots. And I think he looked at them and says, hey, you protect him, we win. You open up holes for Pacheco and McKinnon, we win. The offensive line, if they play well, the Chiefs will score. We know that because they've put up points. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. When the offensive line plays well against the Bengals, the Chiefs put up points. So I got the offensive line just as a whole, but if I had to pick one, it's Orlando Brown, man. This is your time. Who's your big Chief?
I'll throw out a nomination for Willie Gay.
Okay.
Especially after his comments yesterday about nothing about the Bengals offense impressing him, which is ironic considering last time I believe it was him and the other linebackers who got absolutely cooked by Samaje Perine, just torching them over and over. So I'll make Willie Gay my big Chief of the week. He needs to step up. He's a little bit more of that coverage linebacker and get all the intermediate stuff, all the passes out to the running backs that destroyed the Chiefs last time. Well, I'll make Willie Gay my big Chief of the week.
That's a good call, especially if Hurst is going to play. And I don't know how healthy he's going to be, because he was going to carve up the Chiefs, I think. No, Willie Gay's a good one. He's an important one. I'm with you there. Let us know. We'll get to our predictions coming up here in just a little bit. But coming up next, the Chiefs. They can't move the ball against the Bengals. The Chiefs. The Bengals defense is just amazing. Is that really true? We'll get to that coming up next here on Mic'd Up. game, Red Friday edition. We're going to talk with John Sheeran, covers the Bengals. We'll get the Bengals point of view coming up here in just a little bit. Looking at a big factor according to the Big O Tires text line, tackles for loss will be a key factor. Negative plays. I agree with that. That's why, the Bengals, or excuse me, the Rams had 7 sacks. That's the reason why they went 3 of 15 on third down. No question. I thought this was very interesting. This is coming from the social media world called His Dirkness. This is interesting. Kansas City's offense in 3 losses to Cincinnati. Yards per play, 6.36. Points per drive against the Cincinnati Bengals, 2.82. Okay, so 6.3 yards per play and 2.82 points per drive. The Chiefs led the NFL in yards per play and points per drive this last year. Did you know that, Kyle? It's pretty cool, right? Yay, team. Here's what the Chiefs did this year, all the way up until this game. Yards per play, 6.4. Points per drive, 2.7. I'm going to reiterate. In the 3 losses to Cincinnati, yards per play, 6.3. Yards per, or points per drive, 2.8. So 6.3 against Cincinnati, 6.4 against everybody else. I'd consider that pretty similar. 2.8 points per drive against the Bengals in 3 losses versus 2.7 to everybody else. I'd say that's pretty similar. The difference is that the Chiefs have not done it in the 4th quarter. Sam McDowell, the Kansas City Star, quarters 1 through 3 against the Bengals. The Chiefs are averaging 3.48 points per drive. But in the 4th quarter, that ain't the case. They have shut them down in the 4th quarter. 4th quarter is going to be big in this one. So the whole misconception of, the Chiefs offense is trash against the Bengals, not the case. Has been in the 4th quarter. Got to get it done in the 4th quarter. Coming up, we're going to talk with John Sheeran on talking all things Bengals here on Mic'd Up. to get to all of them in the 1 o'clock hour. We'll also talk with Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, talking all things Chiefs versus Bengals. Once again, you can hear that game right here on 580 WIBW FM 104.9. But we've tried to give you the warning here. We cannot air the Chiefs radio network like we normally do. The NFL won't let us. So we will be airing the Westwood One radio feed. It will be Ian Eagle on the call. Kevin Harlan's going to be calling the NFC title game. So we can't air it. You won't hear Mitch. You won't hear the gang on Sunday. It's just how it works. So I know I'm going to get like 7 or 8 emails and tweets and all that going, how come you're not airing Mitch? It's because we are not allowed to. That's just how it works. So we will have that game right here, both the AFC title game and the NFC title game right here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW. But right now, we're going to talk all things Bengals. We talked to him, let's see, at the beginning of December when the Chiefs took on the Bengals. We bring in John Sheeran, is the deputy manager of Cincy Jungle, does a fantastic job on a podcast, the Orange and Black Insider for the Bengals. John, how are you doing there in Cincinnati for edition number 2 of the AFC title game between these two teams?
Yeah, edition number 2, matchup number 4 in the last 13, 14 months. It feels like I'm a regular now at this point, and I'm very sorry that you guys aren't going to be airing that call on the radio. It really does stink when the NFL kind of screws you a little bit.
Yeah, and I remember last year I thought I did a good enough job letting people know, and oh my goodness, the amount of emails I got. Why would you ditch the radio network? Why wouldn't you put the Chiefs broadcast on? Because I'm going to do that. I'm going to choose Westwood One over our local broadcast. It is what it is. John, let's get to the big news. No Jonah Williams, no Kappa. How big of a deal is that?
Well, I think after the Ravens game, it seemed like a very big deal because you had no inclination of what this offensive line was going to look like with not 2 new starters, but 3 new starters. Third new starter, Jackson Carman, was drafted out of Clemson as a left tackle in the 2nd round. People thought that he was drafted a little bit too early. Not a lot of people knew the person he was. He had some character issues and maturity issues and everything. They tried to move him to guard. It didn't work, but they wanted to develop him at tackle now that they had the guard spot solidified. And he's been practicing at that spot for a couple of months now, along with a bunch of other spots. That's what you do when you're a reserve lineman. And he came in for his first game and a half at left tackle, and he's looked tremendously fine, so much better than what he has been in his first year and a half with the Cincinnati Bengals. Now you have a left tackle that you can at least somewhat count on from a week-to-week basis. Again, the sample size is very small, but I think the Bengals have confidence in him holding down that spot for however long Jonah Williams is out in case they happen to win this one, and then they have a situation to deal with in the Super Bowl to see who plays there. But you have him filling it in a left tackle. You have Max Sharping, who's a starter in this league. He has been for years at the Texans at right guard. And then Hakeem Adeniji, who's in a more natural spot for him at right tackle. So entering this past week, I think there were a lot of questions, but after they ran 170 yards on the Buffalo Bills and allowed very few pressures against the Bills pass rush, I think there's more confidence in this Bengals offensive line right now.
Because that's what, at least here in the Chiefs Kingdom, that's the biggest difference, at least on our side, is you had all 5 guys because Collins was still there before he got hurt against the Patriots. So it'll be a different old line for the first time when the Chiefs played the Bengals. And then the Chiefs are getting back Joe Thuney, Kadarius Toney, and Jalen Watson. So the Chiefs are getting a little bit healthier. So that's kind of an interesting thing. How do Bengals fans and the Bengals community look at the Chiefs getting a couple of their guys back for this game?
Yeah, I think having Hardman and having Toney back is huge. They didn't play in that first game, and I'm sure it impacted what the Chiefs could do offensively. But obviously, everyone's eyes are on Patrick Mahomes, and everyone knows that he's going to play. There's no way in hell that he's missing this game, sprained ankle or not. I think his toughness is just off the chart. He's just a phenomenal competitor, and the Bengals are expecting the very best of Patrick Mahomes, regardless of the state of that ankle. And I feel like that's where the majority of the focus is. There is a confidence level in Bengals defense coordinator Lou Anarumo coming up big and calling the right calls at the right time, pulling the right levers, calling the right blitzes at the right time, dropping back in 8 when it calls for it, because he has a track record at this point. It's a pattern not only against Patrick Mahomes, but some of the best quarterbacks in the league. So I feel like the confidence level is high. It's at an earned place regardless of the health of the entire Chiefs offense, and it's just a matter of how impactful is Patrick Mahomes going to be in some of the things that makes him special, like escaping from the pocket, extending plays in the pocket. Like his general mobility, I feel like is the biggest question mark in the minds of a lot of Bengals fans right now.
Oh, 100%. And with that, I think what Lou Anarumo does is fascinating. Do you go after Patrick Mahomes and say, we're going to test your ankle, we're going to blitz, we're going to see if we can't get to you, we're going to try to tackle you, we're going to try to make you uncomfortable, we're going to get pressure on you. But if you do that, that's against the blitz. Patrick Mahomes annihilates the blitz. That's what he's done. Or do you say, hey, look, we're going to make you with that ankle drive down the field. We're going to drop 8. I can see both sides of it. What do you think the Bengals are going to do? Or do you have an idea of past history what the Bengals will do?
It's very difficult to predict what Anarumo does because the thing that makes him special is that he'll show quarterbacks very similar looks throughout the game, and then he'll throw a new wrinkle in there off the same pre-snap look, and the goal is just to confuse him in the post-snap phase. Like, there's enough tape already for Mahomes and Andy Reid to look through for what Anarumo has done in these 3 games to get a good idea. Like, the more times these two teams play, the more their tendencies are going to be figured out before the game, and I feel like everything is going to start equaling out at this point. But I don't think the plan is going to be that much different than what they've done to Mahomes in the past. I think they're treating Mahomes like he's going to be 100%, and he's not going to be limping, handing the ball off like he was in the second half of the Jaguars game. I feel like they're not taking anything for granted, and they're treating Mahomes like he's going to be the weapon and the best quarterback in the league that he's proven himself to be over these past couple of years. But there's always that unpredictability factor when you're talking about Lou Anarumo. I think you'll see similar drop 8 looks, but there's always going to be a new wrinkle here added in, depending on how the game goes.
When it comes to this Bengals defense, they don't have, like, oh my gosh, that dude is an absolute stud. I think Trey Hendrickson's very underrated. He's been very good, but it seems like they're just kind of the sum of the parts when it comes to this run that they're on. You look at the secondary and, it doesn't scream like, oh, wow, lockdown guys, and then linebacker, and then, up front. It's crazy that the Bengals didn't have a single all-pro guy, which is wild to think about. So is that really what this defense has been here in this stretch, is just everybody is solid and they don't really have any weaknesses?
Yeah, it's a fair description. There are no real liabilities on this defense. Now, like, if you want to look at Eli Apple and a couple of receptions, maybe burns that he gets burned a game, that's perfectly fair. Like, he's kind of earned that reputation now, but he's fit well with this secondary, and he communicates well with his safeties and this fellow defensive back. So, like, he just fits into the system very nicely. I will say the elite players on this Bengals defense play positions that don't really get a lot of recognition on the grand scheme of things. Like, it's Trey Hendrickson is their best edge rusher, but he's not a Myles Garrett. He's not a TJ Watt or anyone of that caliber. He just gets the job done. He has a high pressure rate, and he converts into sacks, but he doesn't win in a dominating way. They don't have right now their best cover corner in Chidobe Awuzie. He's been out since Halloween, so they've had to deal with him out of the lineup, and that's a cornerback, right? He makes a lot of money. Like, that's the position that gets a lot of the attention. DJ Reader is arguably one of the 2 or 3 best nose tackles in the game. He's a dominating run stopper. He makes an impact on all 3 downs, and he's probably their most elite player on defense. But again, he's a nose tackle. He doesn't get the recognition that a pass rushing defensive tackle like a Chris Jones gets.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Hilton is arguably the best slot cornerback in the game, but again, he's not a boundary cornerback. He's not locking down number 1 receivers. He just gets dirty. He plays like a linebacker despite being 5'9", 185 pounds, and he makes an impact on all 3 downs. But again, the nature of the position that some of these guys play, that it tends to keep them away from the spotlight, but it doesn't negate how talented and how impactful they are.
You brought up Eli Apple. I got to ask about Eli Apple here. Chiefs fans are not fans of Eli Apple, but are Bengals fans, because I look at this, okay, and it's kind of in the Ohio area. I don't know if you're a big college basketball guy, but like Aaron Kraft. Like, everybody hated Aaron Kraft, but Ohio State people loved him. Is it like one of those things where I would have taken Aaron Kraft on my basketball team, but because he's not on my team, you don't like him? You know what I mean? Like, when he's on your team, you're like, yeah, we like him. Is that how it is with Eli Apple? Because, boy, he chirps a lot. He's not the greatest, but he's not, awful. How do Bengals fans feel about, like, Eli Apple?
I feel like it's a mix. And by the way, it's a coincidence. Two Ohio State players, right? He'll have one to Ohio State
Yeah,
as well.
he did. You're right. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a mix, right? Because Bengals fans, a lot of them grew up with Chad Johnson, and just the creative way that he would talk trash and he would create controversy. But obviously, Chad Johnson was an All-Pro, one of the best
And he
receivers
was
of the
funny.
2010s.
Like, he was
Right,
funny.
exactly. Yeah. Like, it seems like with Eli, it's a lot more personal. And I feel like because of the way that Eli Apple's career started, him not working out with the Giants, him kind of leaving on bad terms with the Saints, maybe the Panthers as well, the fact that he's found himself here at a place where he's played his best football and he's taken a lot of criticism from not living up to being the 10th overall pick, I feel like that has really fueled a fire in him. And he's just gone scorched earth with it. He's like, you know what? I'm not trying to make everyone love me. In fact, I'm just here to just talk my talk. And if you hate me, then you hate me. And I feel like the defense definitely kind of fuels off of that because there is a sense of disrespect when you talk about the Bengals and just the history of the team. And obviously things have been great in these past couple of years, but people don't forget the talk before Burrow was drafted or the 30 years prior to that when they didn't win playoff games. So I feel like a lot of fans kind of embody like the spirit that he brings with that because it's just releasing a lot of catharsis about, hey, you know, we've been taking a lot of crap for 3 decades now, and now it's the time to talk our talk because we've earned that opportunity.
We're talking with John Sheeran right now, part of the Orange and Black Insider, the Bengals football podcast, as well as Cincy Jungle at SB Nation on all things Bengals and Chiefs. If there is one matchup that you think is a big one, what one would that be?
Well, I mean, we talked about the offensive line earlier, and you know, they were very impressive against the Bills' defensive front. But now you're going up against the Chiefs' defensive line, like you mentioned, Chris Jones, and how amazing he is. Frank Clark is obviously a great edge rusher as well. George Karlaftis has really stepped up in the last few weeks on the other side. So it's a more tougher matchup for the Bengals' offensive line, both against the run and protecting Joe Burrow here. So it'll be a real test for this offensive line to see if they can replicate that for a second week in a row. And honestly, in that first game back in December, the Chiefs were running the ball against the Bengals pretty well. You had DJ Reader, who I mentioned earlier. He was not having a good time against the backup left guard. Now you have Joe Thuney back into the equation, Cree Humphrey, Trey Smith. You know, those guys are maulers up in the interior. So I wonder in this game when maybe you don't want Patrick Mahomes dropping back 50 times to give them opportunities to maybe re-injure that ankle a little bit. Maybe you do lean on the run game with Isaiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon against the defensive front that you had success with earlier in that game that unfortunately the Chiefs lost. So I look at the run game for both these teams, and I'm sure they want to feed Joe Mixon after his dominating games against the Bills. It's just going to be a different level of competition. It's just a matter if the Bengals can match that.
Do you think this game will follow the same type of games that have been played before with the Chiefs and the Bengals, or do you think it will be a little bit different when it comes to this game because of the Mahomes injury, because of the Bengals offensive line? Do you think that maybe the Chiefs will come out with a completely different game plan and it won't be like the last 3 games?
Yeah, like, I mean, you just look at how those game flows have gone, right? The Chiefs have gone up, 2 of them pretty early, and then the scripts kind of flipped in this past one when the Bengals went up, and then they left some points on the board. They let the Chiefs come back. So, you know, all 3 of these games have kind of taken on similar ways. I feel like in my mind, this is just going to be really tightly contested throughout just because emotions have never been higher with this matchup. I think there's a palpable hatred from the Chiefs side towards the Bengals, and then there's the Bengals who are kind of feeling themselves riding high with confidence, calling it Burrowhead and all these other things. So there's going to be a lot of emotions and a lot of high energy in the beginning of this game, and it might end up making it kind of sloppy where no team really starts off fast and puts the team away early. So I feel like this is going to be a one-score game throughout. But also when you have those high emotions, maybe you have more mistakes being made from one side, and that leads to the other team kind of taking advantage. So I think you're going to see another great defensive game plan from Lou Anarumo, but I think you're going to see a charge to Patrick Mahomes trying to silence all the noise that Joe Burrow is getting and trying to quell concerns about his ankle and try to reestablish himself or reaffirm his status as QB1 in this league.
Yeah, Chiefs fans right now not having a good time with the Burrowhead comment, which, by the way, that is very clever. I am a big trash talk guy. I love it as long as you're doing it correctly. Well, and if you're winning, if you're talking smack and you're down by 20, stop. Don't do that. Chiefs fans like to call, Allegiant Stadium where the Raiders play. We like to call that Arrowhead West. well, we all puff our chests and say Arrowhead West. We haven't lost there in so long. Mahomes undefeated on the road in the AFC West. But then when someone comes in and says, well, it's Burrowhead, then we get all, hurt. And I'm like, look, if you're going to talk it, you got to be able to handle it. And I thought that was very clever. I started chuckling when I heard Burrowhead there. So when it looks at as these two teams, not even anything, on the field, and I bring up the Burrowhead thing is, I think everybody else looks at the Chiefs and is like, okay, we have to play our best in order to beat these guys. They're so good. Whereas the Bengals mindset is completely different. I think they take a different mindset coming into this game than any other team.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like, I think the topic of pressure has kind of come up with this game too, because the Chiefs, they've been to now 5 consecutive AFC championships, but they haven't been to the Super Bowl in a couple of years, and there's this sense of urgency to kind of keep this dynasty alive for them. And also with the Bengals, it's a sense of last year there was a lot of talk about how there was 1 year early, right? You're just a year ahead of things, and things are going to crash and burn. And they've lived with that talk about regression throughout the entire season. And they started 0-2, and now they find themselves here like 14-2 in these past 16 games. So like I feel like mindsets are definitely a little bit converging here in a sense where they're kind of contrasting, but they're meeting here at such an interesting time. And it's going to be interesting to see who kind of feels more of the pressure early on in this game. But as soon as the game is like in the heart of it, in the second and third quarter, I think you're going to see both quarterbacks kind of play their best because they tend to shine in these moments.
I want to go kind of long term here. Joe Burrow can get a contract extension after this year, and what's I think is interesting is for the Chargers and the Bills and now the Bengals coming up. They're going to deal with having a quarterback who's going to have a $45 million cap hit. It's a little bit different. I mean, the Chiefs traded Tyreek Hill this offseason because of it. You have two guys who are awesome at wide receiver. Do you think they keep both of them? Because I wonder if you're able to pay, Jamar Chase is going to require, Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, type of money. I think T. Higgins is going to require $20 million a year. Do you think they try to make it work with both of them at the wide receiver spot while also paying Joe Burrow $50 million a year?
I mean, I have no doubt that they're going to give Burrow whatever he wants. He has the most amount of leverage out of any citizen in the Cincinnati area. So he's going to be able to write a blank check. I think their priority for the receivers is going to be Chase just because of what he's done in his first 2 years. The connection with Burrow, it gets talked about a lot, but he's a true dominant number one receiver. Higgins becomes the variable in this. I do think that they will try. I do think that it's not going to be a case of we're not even going to attempt this, go ahead and test the market. I think they're going to try as soon as this year to get something done with that in mind, that they're going to also try to get Chase done in a year. If they're whether they're successful or not, I have no idea. I think obviously you look at the degree of difficulty of fitting all three under the cap long term, and you just kind of shake your head like there's no way that's possible. And I don't disagree with anyone who kind of thinks that, but I know that they're going to try. Any notion that they're going to trade him because they don't have confidence in it, I don't think that's a likely scenario. I do think the fact that his agent is the same as Jesse Bates is David Mulligetta, who got a fully guaranteed contract for Deshaun Watson. They don't have the best relationship with that agent right now, so I think that also hinders their success in doing this with Higgins. So I would definitely say Chase and Burrow for sure. Higgins is probably like a 30-70 at this point, I would say.
Okay. Yeah, because that's when Tyreek Hill got traded, you look at, you put pen to paper and you're like, gosh, I just don't know. We can't afford him and we got to go a different way. So it's always interesting to see other teams when they get that big contract, what's their thought process? What is their blueprint? What do they think they can do when you got a guy who is the guy at quarterback? Alrighty, final two for the road. If you could pick the winner in the NFC to be in the Super Bowl, who would you want to face?
That's a good one. I think San Francisco is probably the answer, just because of Kyle Shanahan's track record in those moments. You obviously, I think either team, the AFC, would want to face Brock Purdy more than Jalen Hurts in that Eagles offense. Even if Purdy hasn't lost, you still would take that perceived quarterback advantage. And then there's the issue with the 49ers secondary. They don't have the best quarterbacks, and then talk about the Bengals receivers. That's obviously a mismatch as well. The Eagles also have 70 sacks on the season, and if you want to talk about, a Bengals offensive line that still has more to prove, like you probably would take just double teaming Nick Bosa for the entire game. I think the 49ers would be the better matchup in that sense. And there's also the history of them facing the 49ers twice in the Super Bowl back in the 80s. And I'm sure a lot of people would want revenge in that regard.
Yeah, I think everybody wants the 49ers, to be honest with you. I want no part of that. I think the Eagles are the best roster in the NFL. They're legit all over. All righty, give me your prediction. What happens Sunday?
Man, it's it's crazy because all three of these games have been 3-score games. Yet I think this game is going to be the closest one of all. Even if the score differential is the same, even if it's a 3-point game at the end, I think this is just going to be really close throughout the game. Emotions are high. You have both teams with a lot to prove on both sides of the ball. The matchups are very equal as well. I think the Chiefs might have the edge in the trenches, and I think Mahomes is going to have a lot to prove. So I'm going to say Chiefs 24, Bengals 23.
Really? You're going with the Chiefs? Is that like an emotional hedge here, or I'm surprised?
Don't relay my plans out there. Come on.
Oh, the emotional hedge is real. It is very real out there. My co-host who's not here is going, yeah, I'm betting money line on the Bengals and money line on the Kentucky Wildcats because he's a KU grad. KU plays Kentucky. He's like, look, I'm going to win no matter what. If my teams win, yes, I'm going to be so happy because KU wins and the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl. If they lose, at least my pocketbook's happy. So he's fully going emotional hedge.
It's got thousands of people on both sides emotionally hedging the crap out of each other. It's just a matter of who emotionally hedges the most. That's obviously going to be the determining factor in this game, not the quarterback, of course.
John, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it, my friend.
Thank you, guys.
John Sheeran does a fantastic job. Got the Chiefs. This is a coin toss. I really do. Line is -1. Coming up, we're going to hear from Andy Reid. We'll hear from Travis Kelce. We got Everyone Loves the List, Jeff Kerr, all that coming up here on Mic'd Up. It is hour number 2 here on Mic'd Up. Thank you so much for joining us. Jacob on with you, along with Kyle Manthey filling in for Fulton Caster. Fulton will be back on Monday. We got a lot to get to. When it comes to the AFC title game, we're going to talk with Jeff Kerr, getting all things neutral observer. We just talked with John Sheeran, covers the Bengals, and he actually picked the Chiefs, but as we kind of found out, is maybe the emotional hedge. As we all know, that is a real thing. But got a little more insight on the Bengals. They feel pretty good about that O-line. They feel pretty good about Adeniji at right guard. They feel pretty good about Carman at left tackle. They feel pretty good about this offensive line going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. They feel like the defense for the Bengals can find a way to slow things down. So the Bengals feeling pretty good, at least on that side. And good news, they don't like Eli Apple just like we don't like Eli Apple. So it works out really, really well. That's one thing that we all have in common. How about that? Lot to get to. Hit us up on our Big O Tires text line, 785-272-9429. Outside of Topeka. Very simple, very easy. If you want to get a hold of us, 785-272-9429. Andy Reid has already spoke. He spoke for a whopping 1 minute and 46 seconds. He was asked about Patrick Mahomes. Says he's feeling pretty good. Asked about his mobility. Says, yeah, he's moving around pretty good. The only guy that did not practice today, Justin Watson, the wide receiver, because of an illness. So it looks like he'll be okay when it comes to the game coming up on Sunday. An interesting aspect of this is Jody Fortson. Jody Fortson can be put on the roster. And maybe they do that because they want to run more tight end sets. Maybe you want a bigger threat at the tight end / wide receiver spot. Maybe you want to go with a Fortson, Kelsey, Blake Bell, Noah Gray package, along with Isaiah Pacheco or Jerick McKinnon. Maybe go big and force some of the smaller corners that the Bengals have to guard some of these bigger dudes. The Bengals did not do well against those big personnel, 3 tight ends, 1 running back, those type of packages. So maybe the Kansas City Chiefs can go that route and be a lot bigger. Maybe try to bully them a little bit more, especially with Patrick Mahomes and his ankle not being 100%, if you will. So that is something that the Chiefs will have to consider. So be looking for a roster move if they determine Jody Fortson is good to go. I don't know if they're going to bring back Clyde. I don't think they need to. I think McKinnon is fine. I think Pacheco is obviously good. I would rather have Jody Fortson than Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean, that's a no-brainer for me. I would rather have those guys be, or I'd rather have Fortson be on the roster because I think he brings more to the table. Mismatch. He's a red zone threat. He is, to me, Jody Fortson is. So there's some things that head coach Andy Reid is going to have to determine when it comes to who is going to play and where. The Chiefs are going to trot out Travis Kelce, Orlando Brown, Chris Jones, Frank Clark, and Creed Humphrey to speak today at some point in time. Andy Reid going 1 minute and 46 seconds probably was something that they didn't think would go that short. Normally on Fridays, though, Andy Reid is pretty quick, but he did mention afterwards as he walked off, he said, yeah, good to talk to you 3 straight days. You can tell Andy Reid not the chattiest and probably not the most thrilled individual during AFC title game week that he has to speak every single day on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. With that, I tell Andy Reid, you're coaching in the AFC title game for 5 straight years. You're probably going to be back there again at some point in time. Just deal with it, Big Red. But he had to throw in a joke there. So waiting to hear from Travis Kelce, Orlando Brown, Chris Jones, Frank Clark, Creed Humphrey. They'll all speak. We'll try to get to those 4 players as quickly as we can. As I mentioned, Orlando Brown, my big chief. He's got to have a good game against Trey Hendrickson and Pipkins and that defensive line for the Cincinnati Bengals. Going back to the red zone, I want to bring that back up real quick because this was just tweeted out. The red zone offense, according to the advanced information, Bengals are 5th in the NFL. Chiefs are 6th. That's how big the red zone is. When you get there, they normally put up points. So that means if you're able to stop the opposing team, that is huge because they normally don't. So red zone offense and red zone defense in this game. If you look on the other side of things, the NFC title game, we'll get to that coming up in the 2:00 hour. The Eagles are 9th and the 49ers are 21st. 21st in the NFL in red zone offense. They don't necessarily put the ball in the end zone like the Chiefs, the Bengals, or the Eagles do. And that is not a surprise with the quarterback situation. So be thinking of that when you look at this game and ends up in the red zone. Who gets 7? Who gets 3? Getting 3 is a gigantic victory, a big one. If you are both the Cincinnati Bengals or the Kansas City Chiefs, that is what is going to be a big factor going forward on Sunday. As always, hit us up on the Big O Tires text line. Let us know your thoughts. What the prediction do you have? Also, who do you have for your big chief? Give us a feel of what you're thinking going into this game coming up on Sunday. And I haven't looked at it yet this week because I've already placed my wager, Kyle. I already took the Kansas City Chiefs money line, and I got that at plus 120. Hopefully you took advantage of that because yesterday it was down to minus 120. And if I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. And we will see when the injury report comes out. And maybe it's different now because Williams, the left tackle, and Kappa, not there. Let's go to Kansas City. And Chris Jones, rocking a little Mississippi State shirt, is meeting with the media. Let's hear from Chris Jones.
I mean, no, I'm just joking. Chris,
what are the vibes like in practice this week?
I mean, good energy. Everybody's dialed in to focus. We know what's ahead of us. We know the challenge in front of us, and we're prepared.
We talked a long time about how disappointing last year was, and it's rare to get the same exact opportunity against the same team. How much are you guys relishing that opportunity to sort of make up for that?
Listen, God is good, man. It's like a full 360, right? Same thing, same circumstances under Burrowhead Stadium. So feeling good about it.
Did you just say Burrowhead Stadium?
Yeah, Burrowhead Stadium, right? Yeah.
Hey, Chris, it seems like you guys have been pretty conscious of not, let's say, doing trash talk during the week back at them. How does that stuff, though, play into what your own mentality is as you deal with what you're hearing from them?
I can't control anyone else. I think this program is run like that. It's been run like that for years. We don't do a lot of talking. We just go out and play the game respectfully.
Chris, is there something you can kind of put your finger on why they've gotten the best of you in these close games the last 3?
I think it's the team who defense who causes the most turnovers and the offense who makes the least amount of mistakes. Their teams tend to prevail. So, we got a huge challenge ahead of us. But a great team, great offense, heck of a quarterback. And we know what's ahead of us. We know what we have to do in order to, overcome these obstacles. And we just got to put the ball down.
Chris, Joe Burrow talked about how difficult it is to get away from someone like you and the way that you attack and rush. What makes him so difficult as a quarterback?
I haven't touched him yet in the playoffs, but I appreciate the kind words. He's tough to bring down. He's quicker than he's perceived, agile, slithery at times, and hopefully we're able to get our hands around him and get him down a couple of times. But he's definitely a challenge to bring down.
played this team. This will be 4 times in 13 months. The stakes have been high almost every time you play. Does this feel like the start of a rivalry between these two teams? You guys might be seeing each other several times.
Start of a rivalry. Yeah, you can say that. It's been huge games that we have to play them in. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to win not one of them. So, for our end, it's a rivalry is when you go back and forth with winning and losing, winning and losing. We haven't beaten them yet, so I don't think we can call it a rivalry yet, or that's kind of far-fetched.
You're used to it every week, but you get extra attention. I think we know that when you're doubled so often, that could be the start thing. How do you keep yourself mentally in it as you throughout the course of the game?
Me double means the other guys around me are able to get single blocks, and I'm able to open up the game for a lot of individuals on the line. So, when you take the me out of it and the selfish aspect out of it, you're freeing up your teammates, and it's not meant for you to make all the sacks all the time as much as I would love to, or make all the plays all the time. Sometimes it's about you freeing up other players so, they can excel.
Chris, I know there will be different offensive linemen in this game than the previous meeting, but when you've watched them on film from that last game, is there anything else that sort of jumps out to you or something like you guys will have to
Being down starters, they did really, really well against Buffalo. Buffalo has a really, really good defensive line to me. Ed Oliver, Jordan Phillips. They don't have their main guy, Von Miller, but they have a lot of quality guys on the defensive line. And, being down 3 offensive line and going in, and I don't think he gave up over 2 sacks. I mean, that's tremendous. That's a remarkable job to those guys. All off to those guys, man. They're blocking their tails off.
Chris, is your buddy Frank Clark playing better football now than you've seen him since he's been in Kansas City?
I wouldn't say that. I think he's speaking at the right time. Coach Reed talks about it throughout the year, making sure we peak throughout the season, towards the end of the season and going to the playoff. You playing your best football, and I think that's the way the trends goes when you want to, get to this level and when you're playing these games in January and February. And Frank has been playing out of his mind, run game, pass game, and he's doing what he's been doing for years in the playoffs. His name in the playoffs speaks for itself. His amount of sacks, I think he tied with Reggie White for 4th. And I mean, that's tremendous right there. So we got to keep Frank going, keep him bringing them down, and continue.
Chris, what do you do now? I mean, you got all the practice in. You got almost 2 days to wait for this. What's tomorrow look like for you?
Rest, watch a little more film, see what else I can pick up, and eliminate all distractions. Take care. See y'all at Burrowhead Stadium.
If you were wondering if the Chiefs knew about the comment made by Mike Hinton on Burrowhead, the answer is a resounding yes. See you all at Burrowhead Stadium. It'll be chippy. It's going to be, there's going to be some trash talk. This has the makings of a lot more vitriol, a lot more. We think you are not who you think you are. The Bengals look at the Chiefs like, oh, you think you're just this, awesome team and everybody's scared of you. Well, we're not scared of you. But we beat you 3 straight times. We're good to go. Where in the Chiefs look at that, look at it. And that's what it's called, Burrowhead Stadium. Yeah, I'm going to see you all at Burrowhead Stadium. Woo! Man, I'm going to be so nervous during this game, Kyle. I'm going to be so nervous. Like, this might be even more nervous than the Super Bowl. And the reason why I say that is because what I talked about on Tuesday, if the Chiefs lose this game, Chiefs fans, get ready. Get ready for an onslaught. I already had somebody today out in public tell me that they would take Joe Burrow over Patrick Mahomes. And they didn't even play the game yet. If Joe Burrow balls out and beats the Chiefs, folks, get ready for it. It is going to be Burrow is better than Mahomes. They are your daddy. There's a new owner of the Chiefs. His name is not Clark Hunt. It'll be whoever plays really, really well against the Chiefs, probably Joe Burrow. They will call it Burrowhead for eternity. It's not just this Super Bowl on the line. It is everything when it comes to this game. I hope people realize that. And if the Chiefs win, then the Chiefs fans are going to be even more cocky. They are going to be even more, well, we beat you, and our quarterback, had the dreaded high ankle sprain. This is going to be a intense matchup, and we all know it is the key to this game will be the officials. Do they let them play? Do they let them play? People forget last year, Chiefs had a kickoff return for a touchdown call back. Remember that, Brian Pringle? That was awesome. And then you saw the flag about halfway through, and you're like, well, all that effort you're doing, Byron, doesn't matter. Will they let them play? They did not let them play in Cincinnati 2 years ago. Will they let them play? Chiefs, remember, picked off Burrow in that game in Cincinnati. They didn't call it. Remember, Juan Thornhill got the interception, brought it back. Nope, pass interference. Will they let them play? There's a reason why I look at Carl Cheffers, and we joke about that. But if you don't think the experts who wager dollars on this don't look at those officials, then you're nuts. Absolutely nuts. Of course they do. So there's so much going in, but the players know that this is not like Chiefs Bills. This isn't. This is not Chiefs Bills. Chiefs Bills, I think, is as the respect factor, go toe to toe. No, this isn't like that. I think there is I don't want to say hatred, but a little bit more resentment, if you will, for the Kansas City Chiefs and the band. This isn't this is like Rossville Silver Lake. This isn't friendly, I don't think. I think that is a big difference when it comes to this. We'll get a quick timeout. We'll hear from Frank Clark. We'll hear from Travis Kelce. All of that will be coming up in the 2 o'clock hour. We're going to talk with Jeff Kerr of CBS Sports coming up at the bottom of the hour. That's all coming up here on Mic'd Up. And we are going to get to Frank Clark, Travis Kelce coming up. We're going to talk with Jeff Kerr of CBS Sports on all things neutral site. What does Jeff think of the Bengals? What does he think of the Chiefs? We'll also talk a little 49ers and Eagles as well. But right now it's time for Everyone Loves the List. We did best villains. Who's the number one villain for you, Kyle? Like who's a great villain in your mind?
The first person that comes to mind, I think, a villain, it's the Joker.
Okay.
He's just a great villain.
A great villain. Okay. Yeah. That made both of our lists. Yeah. I like that. So now we're going to switch things up and we're going to go and I want real people. Okay. We're doing real life people, universally loved people. Most people do not have this character trait. Most people, like some people don't like Patrick Mahomes. Some people don't like Joe Burrow. Like I would not put those characters on here. So give me your top 4. What's number 4 for you?
I have a little bit of a Chiefs tie-in for number 4. How about Henry Winkler, the Fonz?
Okay,
There's a reason why when he shows up to Arrowhead and he's trying to be friends with Patrick Mahomes, there's a reason he's all over social media. That's because no one dislikes him.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Number 4 for me. I hope this counts because she passed away last year. Betty White. Everybody loved Betty White. Betty White. Who dislikes Betty White? I feel like nobody. All right, what do you got number 3?
Number 3, another sports tie-in. How about Kevin Harlan? I think he's the best
that's good.
Play-by-play guy out there. I don't know anyone that doesn't like him.
Yeah, man. I'm with you there. I like it. Kevin Harlan's a good one. I do. Number 3 here, Tom Hanks. I don't think anybody hates Tom Hanks. I think either you like him or you're neutral. You know what I mean? So I'm going to go Tom Hanks, number 3.
Number 2, Dolly Parton.
Dolly, okay.
No one dislikes her. She just does nice things.
What people don't give credit for Dolly, she does that book thing. We do the book thing with our kids. You get a book every month from Dolly Parton. It's incredible. Number 2 for me, Bob Ross. Who hates Bob Ross right now? By the way, there's a Netflix documentary about Bob Ross. Have you watched it?
I have not. It sounds interesting.
It is so interesting. Bob Ross got totally screwed. It's awful. That man got screwed over by his business partner. All right, number 1, who do you got?
Number 1, same reasons you said, Tom Hanks. No one dislikes him. He's just a nice guy.
I went with this. You ready? Paul Rudd. I don't think anybody hates Paul Rudd. I love Paul Rudd. And the fact that he's a Chiefs guy and a Royals guy, but Paul Rudd to me, number 1. Coming up next, we're going to talk with Jeff Kerr on all things AFC and NFC title game. on this AFC Title Red Friday edition. We are going to hear from Frank Clark. We are here from Travis Kelce coming up in the 2 o'clock hour. That will make an appearance. So we will get to that here in just a little bit. From the Big O Tires text line, let's see here. We do have some individuals. Let's see here. Mr. Rogers. Good old Mr. Rogers. We have the Pope as well. I mean, I'm not anti-Pope. I'm not Catholic, so the Pope, you know. And Ronald Reagan. So I got a couple of them coming here. So there's some when it comes to that. We will try to get a hold of Jeff Kerr. He's running a little bit late, so we'll see if we can't get to Jeff. Here, I will play the Andy Reid 1 minute and 46-second press conference. Here's what Andy Reid had to say to the media today.
The only one that didn't practice was Justin Watson. He's sick, and so everybody else went through practice, did a nice job with it really all week. We look forward to the challenge of playing Cincinnati. You know, they're, again, a good football team, and look forward to bringing them here to Arrowhead. With that, time's yours.
Coach, yesterday you said Mahomes was on track to play Sunday. Now you got 3 days in of work. What's your comfort level that he will be a full go?
Yeah, no, he looks good. Yeah. Yes.
What's your comfort level with his mobility after 3 days?
Yeah, he looks good. I mean, he's moving around good. Yeah, I think he he'd go out and play. Yeah.
Coach, you're sitting on 52 players on the active roster. Jody Fort's is still a candidate to be called up before the game?
Potentially, yeah, he is. We're just gotta see how everything goes here. You know, have numbers there.
I know you don't have an answer probably on whether McCole can play or not, but how has he progressed this week?
Yeah, no, he's worked his tail off. I think he's feeling better than what he was definitely last week. Yeah, so we'll see how he does. I mean, he's practicing. Yeah.
Which it was earlier in the year, but after the Indy game, you mentioned how you challenged the offensive line a little bit more. Is that something that you do this week going into this game?
So that is what Andy Reid had to say to the media today. McCole Hardman might be giving it a go. We'll have to wait and see what the injury report says, but he feels a lot better. How about that? To get the neutral observer this time, we talked with John Sheeran covering the Bengals. We're going to talk with Jeff Kerr, covers the NFL for CBS Sports, does a fantastic job. All right, Jeff, we've had the Bengals side. We obviously are on the side of the Kansas City Chiefs here, being from the capital city. So we need to get somebody who's a neutral. You are a neutral. Take me through. What are you thinking? Chiefs versus Bengals coming up on Sunday.
You know what, Jake? I'll tell you what. I'm starting to believe at the beginning of the week, if you would have asked me who's going to win, I would have said Bengals. And some of the mismatches tell me it probably should be Bengals, but rewatching all the games again this week, and I've watched my fair share of Bengals Chiefs games over the last 2 years. I just keep thinking if the Chiefs can just hold on to a fourth-quarter lead, maybe it wouldn't be Burrowhead. Maybe it's Joe Burrow would still be looking up at Patrick Mahomes. So I'm really starting to believe the Chiefs might win on Sunday.
How big is the ankle in your mind? Is it that the end all be all, or do you think there's more to it with the defense and the scheme and everything, turnovers, because the Bengals are so good at forcing turnovers? How do you think the ankle stacks up? Is it just simply if Mahomes' ankle is good, he'll be fine?
I'm one of those people, I feel like as long as he's on the field, he's going to be productive. And keep in mind, I wish I had the same amount of info as I did with Jalen Hurts' shoulder, because I'm in the Philly area. And I had to hear all the BS for 2 weeks about, how his shoulder's for him when it really wasn't. So, again, I think it's going to limit Mahomes' mobility coming out of the pocket. But overall, I think he's going to be fine. And I think Kansas City's offense is good enough where they can put up points. Here's a stat for you, Jake. Kansas City is 54% 4-3 when they hold their opponent to 27 points or fewer. I think that's going to be the key to this game.
So
in the Mahomes era.
You look at it on the defensive side then as a big deal. And just today we found out that no Jonah Williams, no Alex Kappa. They had Collins as well in the game against the Chiefs earlier this year. So you had all 5 starters healthy. Now 3 of them are going to be out against this Chiefs front. Do you think that's not getting talked enough about, that no Williams and no Kappa in this game?
Yeah, I think it was a big talking point last week because they were playing Buffalo and because they were down 3 offensive linemen. But you know as well as I do, Jake. This Kansas City team has a better pass rush than Buffalo. They've had 55 sacks this year. They're one of the best in the league getting pressure on the quarterback. And frankly, they're playing very well at this time of year, which I think is the most important aspect of the game. Like, George Karlaftis is coming to his own. We know what Frank Clark does in the postseason. We know Chris Jones is one of the best players in football. I mean, he's a Defensive Player of the Year finalist. So I'm looking at it as, okay, I feel the Chiefs can get pressure on Burrow, but Burrow gets rid of the ball so quick. I think that may be the equalizer there.
Do you think the Bengals operate the same way up front? Because they basically said, we're going to shut down Chris Jones, and they pinched him and they doubled him, and they let Collins and they let Williams go one-on-one with everybody. Do you think they do that with the backups in this game?
Yeah. I think they do, Jake. I think it's going to be one of those. Okay, they let it go one-on-one, and again, I want to see what they actually do with Chris Jones in the interior too. Is it going to be Ted Karras on him? Is it without Kappa? Kappa was more a run blocker than a pass blocker. I think it's still, to me, the most shocking part of this game is, Jake, can Cincinnati run the ball? Because they were 27th in the league of rushing this year, but they rushed for 170 yards against Buffalo. Was that because Buffalo didn't have a good pass rush? Was that because they couldn't get penetration? Because Joe Burrow was, to me, I think Joe Burrow might be the smartest quarterback in the game. And, keep in mind, I'm adding Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts, and a lot of those guys on that list were very cerebral themselves. But I feel like it's going to be a matchup of what Joe Burrow sees in the Chiefs defense and how he can audible a pass and turn into a run, et cetera. That's where I think the intricacies of the game take too far beyond like all the stats I'm presenting here. And I think that's where it's getting really tricky for me to actually pick a team right now.
We're talking with Jeff Kerr, covers the NFL for CBS Sports. And Jeff, have you ever seen a Vegas line go from Chiefs favored by 3 to then the Bengals favored by 2.5 to now the Chiefs, I just looked, are favored by 1.5? Have you ever seen a Vegas line like that?
See, that's new to me. I didn't know the Chiefs were favored again.
Yeah, just now I just looked. They are a 1.5 point favorite right now, and I'll just double check because Chiefs are 1.5 point favorite, minus 126 on the money line, whereas 3 days ago they were plus 126 and a 2.5 point dog. Like, this is crazy to me, this line.
All because Patrick Mahomes is dancing around on an injured ankle, right? It's kind of crazy how they basically went back to getting that generous home point spread. So, yeah, I really don't know. I always thought the Chiefs were going to have a chance, regardless if Mahomes can move or not. This is what makes it so tough for me, Jake.
Mm-hmm.
Because Cincinnati, we all know the full extent of Mahomes' injury, and because Cincinnati has beaten Kansas City 3 straight times, although it's only been by a total of 9 points. But can they go down there and beat them 4 times in a row? Can they win an Arrowhead for the second consecutive year? I don't know. I have my doubts. It does feel like that this line is telling me to pick Kansas City.
All righty. How big is this? The Chiefs, when they played the Bengals earlier this year, did not have Joe Thuney, did not have Kadarius Toney, did not have McCole Hardman, and did not have Jalen Watson. That's essentially 4 starters. We don't know about Hardman, but we do know that Jalen Watson, Joe Thuney, and Kadarius Toney are all healthy, all good to go. How big is it having those 3 in this game as opposed to earlier?
Well, here's the other thing too, Jake. Jared McKinnon wasn't Jared McKinnon yet. I mean, I think he started his reception touchdown streak that game, if I'm not mistaken. You can correct me if I'm wrong there. But we didn't really fully know what Isaiah Pacheco was going to be, and the Chiefs' run game's been that much more efficient since then. So Yeah, it's definitely a much different Chiefs team, but I can say the same about the Bengals. I feel like the Bengals, they were hitting their stride going into that Chiefs game, but they really started to hit their stride after that, and they've been carrying that momentum ever since. So, yeah, if Mecole Hardman plays, that just gives the Chiefs another weapon. I don't think they've had a single game where Mecole Hardman and Kadarius Toney have both played.
I'm trying to think if they did, it was, Tony banged up or Hardman banged up, but you were correct. The touchdown streak obviously was snapped last week against Jacksonville when McKinnon didn't, but it did. It started against Cincinnati. He did have a receiving touchdown in that game, so great memory when it comes to that. I want to get your pick here before we get to the NFC title game. Do you have the Chiefs? Do you have the Bengals? Is it high scoring, low scoring? The over-under is 47, which seems about right for a 24-23 type of game, which they've kind of played the last couple of games. Mid-20s, nothing crazy high scoring. But how do you see this one?
I'm going to go Kansas City 27, Cincinnati 24. I say they hit the over. I say it'll be a 3-point game. Mahomes is going to be limited in the pocket the whole day, but I think this is a day, especially, it's funny how it's going to be 50 in Philly on Sunday, but it's going to be really cold in Kansas City. I think this is going to be a game where the running game takes over.
All righty, Jeff. We're talking with Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports. Okay, Eagles versus the 49ers. I think the Eagles are the best team left. I think the Eagles are the deepest team. I think they have the best offensive line. I think the best defensive line. They have great wide receivers, good secondary. I think they are a very complete team. And the 49ers are one of the best defenses in the NFL. Do you expect a low-scoring game, and how do you see a key matchup in that one?
There's a lot of mismatches that favor the Eagles, and one of them, I think the 49ers' biggest strength is what the Eagles can neutralize, and because the Eagles have the best offensive line in football. And I would say Kansas City's probably second best if everybody's healthy. I know people like to criticize Orlando Brown, but he's still really good. But overall, though, if the Eagles can protect Jalen Hurts like I think they're going to, the 49ers' pass defense is not very good. Jalen Hurts has the best numbers of throwing deep ball, 25 yards or more.
Mm-hmm.
He's got 10 touchdowns. He's got the highest passer rate. The 49ers are in the bottom 5 in that same category. Eagles could have a lot of big plays against them on Sunday. That's something I'm looking for at Brock Purdy against the Eagles pressure. He has not faced He has not faced a pass rush like the Eagles defense. He faced something close to it last week in Dallas, and he only went 3 of 11 for 14 yards with pressure in his face. So I'm curious to see how the Eagles respond to that.
Do you think the offense for the 49ers will have less punch if McCaffrey and Mitchell are not up to their ability? Because the reason the 49ers have been so good is because those two running backs in the running game have kept them ahead of schedule. And then if they're facing 2nd and 3, it's a lot different. I think that running game, if it's not clicking for the 49ers, that is a huge issue.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think the 49ers need to control the clock. I think they need to get that zone run game, that zone scheme going. If they can't, it might be a long day for that offense. I don't care how well the defense plays. It may look like a 27-13 final if that's the case, but Eagles offense, they can beat you in so many different ways. Passing the ball, running the ball. In 5 of Jalen Hurts' last 6 starts, the Eagles have either thrown for 300 yards or rushed for 200 yards. I don't know how you stop that.
Yeah, I want the 49ers to win, Jeff. I'm not going to lie to you because, like I said, I think the Eagles are the best team left. That's including the Chiefs. I think the Eagles up front are great, both sides of the football. I think Devonta Smith's one of the most underrated wide receivers in the NFL. I don't want to see the Eagles in the Super Bowl if my Chiefs win. I promise you that. But do you
I'll
think?
tell you what, Jake.
Oh, go ahead.
I'll tell you what, Jake. I said to you all year, though, Kansas City was going to be a lot better than people thought, just because I thought they were deeper at receiver, they were better on defense. And I tell you what, I think I'd rather see the Bengals if the Eagles play in the Super Bowl than the Chiefs, but I kind of want the Andy Reid Bowl. I'm not going to lie.
And that was kind of my next question. Like, do Philly people now, is Andy Reid back in the good graces of Philly people, or did he never really leave the good graces because he had a lot of success there? And what happened in his personal life with his son and everything, he just needed a relocation and he got that. Like, what is the feelings for the Eagles? I mean, obviously it helped that the Eagles won a Super Bowl after he left. The Chiefs have won a Super Bowl. I mean, you look at it, the Andy Reid Bowl, and then you got the Kelsey Bowl. I mean, Travis and Jason Kelsey going up against each other. I mean that there's a lot of fun storylines if it's Chiefs Eagles.
Well, I really want the Kelsey Bowl too because I get to talk to Jason every week, and I talk to Travis at least once or twice a year. So that would be a lot of fun just to interview both of them. And by the way, I'm not a big podcast guy, but I'll listen to New Heights podcast every single week. I think those two are hilarious. But yeah, in terms of Philly with Andy Reid, I feel like once the Eagles won the Super Bowl, that role toward Reid went away, and I think more people actually blame McNabb than they do Reid. If you want my honest opinion, I think they blame McNabb for losing those title games for more than Reid. I don't know. I feel like over time, everybody goes, you know what? Andy's a really good coach, and I know in general Philly's happy for him what he's doing there in Kansas City, but I think Eagles fans would love to beat him in a Super Bowl.
All righty, last two questions I got for you. Two for the road. It is very, very simple. What is the matchup that you think benefits the most for each team? Is it Chiefs 49ers? Is it, Eagles Bengals? What's the matchup that you think is the best if you're if you were a favorite of one specific team?
So if you're the Eagles, I think you want the Bengals because of their offensive line issues. I think if you're the Chiefs, I would agree. I think you would want the 49ers because they're kind of one-dimensional, and you've beaten them in Super Bowl before, so you kind of know what it takes to beat them. If you're the Bengals, I think you would want the 49ers just because the 49ers have a good history against the Bengals in Super Bowls. I mean, they're 2-0. I know that was 30 years ago, but more than 30 years ago, but still, and I think that their defensive line matches up well with their offensive line. And if you're the Eagles, I already did the Eagles. So who am I missing here? Oh, you're the 49ers. You want the you're the Chiefs. Yeah, I think you want the Bengals too. So it's weird. Like I think the Bengals are really good, but I think they're the worst team left, and I don't think that's a bad thing.
Alrighty, last one. We had this discussion about universally loved people. I don't think there's anybody in the NFL who is universally loved. I don't. People hate Tom Brady. People don't like Patrick Mahomes. Some people don't like Joe Burrow. So give me a universally loved football player like at any point in time. Is there somebody that you think a lot of people just liked that player?
Man, that's weird. You mean to tell me people don't universally love Patrick Mahomes? How do you not love Patrick Mahomes? He don't do anything.
I think there are a lot of people who don't like Patrick Mahomes. Maybe.
Do you think it's because of his brother and his wife?
I don't know. Like that doesn't like his wife doesn't bother me at all. I mean, she
don't bother me at all.
Yeah.
I like his wife.
I don't know, but yeah, I think there's a lot of people that don't like Mahomes. The only guy I could think of is Joe Montana. That's the only guy that I could think of.
Yeah, that's tough for me too because like I remember Joe Montana more as a commentator in '95 because that's when I really started getting the football, and he was terrible at that. Like I was too young to remember him. You know what? Guy I think everybody likes Steve Young.
I can see that. Okay.
Yeah, I think everybody likes Steve Young. I think a lot of people had like John Elway too. I remember there were a lot of John Elway fans. I like John Elway. So, and I don't know. Growing up, like there were like 3 or 4 guys. I feel like everybody loved him. Steve Young, John Elway, Jim Kelly. I remember a lot of people loved. Warren Moon, a lot of people loved too. Which I get it. Like I loved Warren Moon growing up. So yeah, I'll go with Steve Young though. I don't remember too many people saying bad things about Steve Young.
Jeff, we appreciate the time, my friend. Thank you so much. Enjoy the game coming up on Sunday there in Philly, but also the after game against the Chiefs should be a lot of fun.
Well, that's the thing. Like, if the Eagles win, you're going to want to be doing like I'll be at the game, so I'll be covering locker room stuff. But I'm going to be that guy. Like, I got to go upstairs to watch the AFC game, so that better be on in the press box.
Jeff, thank you so much, my friend.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me on, Jake.
That's Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports. I think he's right. I think if you're the Bengals, you want the 49ers, and if you're the Eagles, you want I think you want the Bengals. I do. I think both defensive lines for the Eagles and the 49ers want the Bengals. Coming up, we're going to hear from Travis Kelce. We'll hear from Frank Clark. That's all coming up here on Mic'd Up. Up on this Friday, AFC title game, Red Friday edition. Coming up on Monday, it will either be a very, very happy Monday, one of the best victory Mondays of the year, or it will be a very sad Monday, one of the worst of the year. I'm ready. I'm excited. I feel good. We'll get our final picks of the game coming up this hour. Jake Vaughn along with Kyle Manthe with you. Fulton off today. He'll be back on Monday. And if KU and the Chiefs win, then Fulton will be ecstatic. If they both lose, it'll be a tough one. It'll be a tough one. KU opens up as a favorite, though. 1.5 point favorite over Kentucky. Just saw that when it comes to the basketball side of things. KU K-State in action coming up tomorrow. K-State against Florida. KU at Kentucky. We're going to hear from a few different Chiefs. Frank Clark met with the media today. Was supposed to hear from Travis Kelce. Never got to hear from Kelce. We'll hear from Orlando Brown. He spoke for a little bit. Same thing with Creed Humphrey. We'll get to those three players coming up here. If you missed it, Chris Jones definitely brought it to the attention. He referenced Burrowhead. He said, see you all at Burrowhead coming up on Sunday. So the Chiefs definitely know and now are starting to chirp back. You had Willie Gaze. You know, what are you impressed with? Nothing. So there's some chatter going on back and forth. No question with these two teams. And if the Bengals win, it's going to get even worse. Chiefs fans, be prepared for a rough one if that doesn't come to fruition. But let's get to a lot of discussion from Frank Clark, Creed Humphrey, and from Orlando Brown. First, we'll hear from Frank Clark. He's got as many sacks in the postseason as Reggie White, just like we all thought. He could be going up against one-on-one against that Bengals backup offensive lineman, whether on the left side or the right side. It could be Adeniji. It could be Carmen. We don't know. But here's what Frank Clark had to say to the media today.
And the same team you played, does he get old yet being in all these title games?
I don't think it never get old. You got to enjoy the process. My last 4 years here, I was talking to some of the younger guys, some of the, newer guys that haven't been around with us for, this journey, and just letting them know the importance of just enjoying the journey, enjoying the, the road you're on with your guys. It's always a new team. Every year it's a new team. It's a new group of guys. Even through the season, guys get sent away, guys come and go. But it's just enjoying this group of guys, enjoying this journey that we've been on because, we've been fortunate. A lot of us have been fortunate. We've seen the AFC Championship now, 4 times in the last, 5 straight, actually. Sorry, I don't want to shorthand this. But, I've seen it 4 times straight now. And it's a very fortunate, it's a very humbling experience. So you got to take advantage of it. I feel like we've taken advantage of it multiple times in the earlier years. But, as of recently, we haven't. But, it's time for a change and just getting back to it. We got to just get back in the rhythm and get back in the groove of things.
Go ahead. What is it about Joe Burrow that makes him so difficult to bring down?
I think just number one, I feel like pocket quarterback. I feel like he's the best in the game. You got that Peyton Manning in him, no matter how many times he gets hit, no matter how many times he gets knocked down, he's getting back up. He's controlling, bringing it and pulling his offense back together and making the adjustments and making the right plays. He knows how to read safeties and he knows how to read the defense. And when you're an immature defense or when you're, a defense that, you can't really disguise the coverage as a disguise thing, he's going to pick you apart every time. And I feel like in the past and, last 3 games, those are things that he's been able to do is just exposes in, those different aspects.
Frank, Chris was just in here and called jokingly Arrowhead, Burrowhead. So you guys have heard some of this stuff. How motivating can some of that trash talking be when it's this far ahead of the game?
It's going to motivate those who are listening and those who are watching, I guess. But I mean, when you're not one of those guys who paying attention to those things, I don't think it's going to motivate you at all. I mean, at the end of the day, trash talk is trash talk. You know, you gonna hear it. People gonna say the things they're gonna say, but I mean, at the end of the day, they got the right to call it whatever they want. I mean, at the end of the day, when you have the win, you have the the last laugh. They have the last laugh right now. So all we can do is look forward to the matchup that we got this Sunday. Go out there and get our laugh back. But at the end of the day, they got the last laugh. They've won the last 3 games. They've held us from going to the Super Bowl last year, and then in the regular season this year, they defeated us. So it's been a lot of close games. I believe we lost about 3 points for all 3 of those games. So it's game that's coming down to the wire, but obviously they're able to finish them. And defensively, we've let the games out of our hands. So we just got to collectively, as an offense and defense, finally bring it together and win the game.
Frank, you were experiencing the illness. You weren't feeling great. You came early this season ahead of playing the Bengals. I just wonder what you learned through that experience and how that made you serve you. You are obviously at peak condition on Sunday.
Yeah, it's just being smart with the choices, through the week that I have to make. I'm kind of unique in that aspect, with things I got to eat and just how I got to prepare myself in that way. And, I can tell you that being in Kansas City compared to, Cincinnati preparing for a game, I think I'm kind of more in favor of being here. I got my house here. I got my doctors here. I got everything I need here to be successful, and I was in Cincy last time. It's simple things that every normal human being does, like forget their pills. You know what I mean? I can forget my pills and wake up on game day and I'm looking for them and I can't find them, and then it's like, oh, boom, stomach, But that don't happen when I'm at home. You know what I mean? It's the little things that when you're at home, that doesn't happen. That kind of, that gives you the quote advantage that I'm able to do. So.
Kind of along those lines, you were saying you're feeling better. You made a lot of off-season changes in your health, and I know different personal changes that you made. Now going into this AFC Championship, do you just overall feel better as a being?
I say so, yes. Of course, like everybody else, in our position right now, it's only 4 teams left. But, I mean, the teams that I have, I'm hurting. I'm sore as hell. But I think, like I said, I got another, group of guys in the locker room I'm sure feel the same way I feel. But health-wise, I'm thankful for what I do have. I'm healthy enough to compete at the highest level. I feel like, to give my shot, to give myself a chance to play the best, football game I can play this weekend. I can tell you that. That's one thing I can guarantee. I can guarantee that, practice this week up until this point has been pretty good. And, things just feel the right way. So at the end of the day, usually when things feel the right way for me, good stuff happens.
Frank's been really moving up the postseason sack charts career-wise in the NFL, and it seems that you're able to peak late in the season, in the playoffs in particular. What's been kind of the common denominator in that? Why do you think you're able to do that in the playoffs? And just your way to that, I guess.
Yeah, I got asked that question before, I think, and I think I always say I can't really talk. I can't speak on it yet because it's kind of still. I'm playing still, and it's like it'll give my opponent and it'll give other people a chance to study me, I guess, in a different way. So the things that I see and the things that I'm able to study in the playoffs and, in comparison to the season is 2 different things, the way I study the game. So, like I said, I'll be able to answer that in the future probably.
Without getting into the, specifics of strategy, is there some emotional peak you feel like you're able to achieve in the postseason as part of it?
I guess emotionally, I guess no. I wouldn't call it emotional. I just think it just all comes together at that point. I kind of get a little bit more freedom in the postseason. It's win or go home. So, I mean, when you got that mindset as a player, then when you have that mindset as a coach, and then in relation, understanding your player, I think that's where it comes from. It's kind of like when you get to the postseason, I get that nod from Coach Reed, and it's like, yeah, go ahead, do your thing. And kind of during the season, you got to understand it's kind of trying to win the game to get to that point. You trying to, you got to do everything right, to get to that point. When you get to the playoffs, you got those dogs. You got certain people where you can say, give them the green light. It's a reason why they brought me here. But I allow y'all to do it right.
Frank, you've taken George under your wing this year. How do you feel he's prepared? How prepared is he for a moment like this?
He's well prepared.
Frank, as a vet, have you called on some of the young guys or somebody to step up? Because I would say, all y'all stepped as a D-line, but is that someone in particular that you kind of hooked on that really need you this game?
I always say, you know, like Carlos said, yeah, we need everybody. But, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, we need everybody. But, you know, I want just my interior. You know, I love my interior guys. And, you know, my back end, my corners, you know what I mean? Them are young guys. So, you know, as a defensive unit, our front seven, we're kind of the more, you know, we're the veterans. You know, you got the linebackers in the defensive line. We're the veterans. When you got this young back end, two corners who are rookies for the most part, 2-3 and 3-5, and you got Snead leading them, you know, in a year 4. You got to look at the numbers, you know what I mean? It's all says young. But why not? You know, I feel like Snead is one of the best in the game at what he does. If not the best at what he does, he just doesn't get all the praise and all the glory that a lot of these other guys get. I feel like 2-3 and 3-5. I feel you watch 3-5 make one of the best plays a corner has probably made all year, and a one-hand interception in the game. You know, in the playoff game, a serious game, a big-time game that sends you to the AFC Championship. So, you know, these guys have made these type of plays all year. And as an older guy, as a year 8 guy, you know, as a guy who, you know, always want to see the next young guy, you know, make that leap. I'm proud of these young guys. You know, I'm proud of how they've come and stepped into the light and do their thing. You know what I mean?
That is what Frank Clark had to say to the media today, covering a lot of different topics. And you know, you mentioned, hey, they can say they beat us. They're 3-0 against us here recently. In referring to Burrowhead. Chiefs fans don't like it because you're on the other side of it, but that's how Raiders fans feel when Chiefs fans say Arrowhead West, you know, or same thing Broncos fans. I mean, to the winner go the spoils, and especially it will get worse. There'll be T-shirts printed out with Burrowhead and everything coming up if the Bengals find a way to win and go to back-to-back Super Bowls. So it definitely will. What about Orlando Brown and Creed Humphrey? I think Orlando Brown is a big time performer in this one. If he plays well, keeps Patrick Mahomes healthy, I think Tooney, Humphrey, and Smith can pave the way. It's a big one. Here is what Orlando Brown had to say to the media today.
Orlando, obviously Pat's dealing with the injury. How much do you feel like the offensive line is embraced and understands, like, not that it's not the case every week, but we got to make sure he's clean this week?
Yeah, big time, man. But, you know, I think that's really the standard heading into any time of year in this year, man. Just with the circumstances being so high, obviously the margin of error is so small and slim. So, man, it's the understanding that, you know, besides him being hurt, you know, it is the AFC Championship.
Orlando, what do you take away from the games that have been so close against these guys and why they've been able to kind of get the better of you all?
Yeah, man, I think they've just done a really good job, man, playing with effort, executing their plan better than we had in the previous games. And yeah, man, it just kind of comes down to that, you know, in these really big games in the regular season or playoffs against these guys, and really any good team, you know, similar to Buffalo, I would say for us in the regular season. You know, like I said, man, the margin of error is just so slim, you know, because these quarterbacks are so good at what they do. Their plan is really good, and you know, it's all about executing. And I just feel like they've out executed us in the past.
Specifically, Hendrickson, what does he do well that maybe you have to prepare for a little bit more?
Yeah, man, he does a lot of things well. Obviously, rushing the passer, I think, is you know, one of the best things that he does. And you know, he does a really good job setting up his moves. It's a chess match out there with him, 60 minutes, and you know, he's really good at, you know, taking the edge with power and doing things like that. So I have my hands full as usual.
Have you thought about what the victory would be for everybody in the locker room, given the circumstances that you guys are having to play in?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think it's really important, you know, because, man, it's week to week in the postseason. And, you know, like I said, man, it's just the AFC Championship. You know, we know it's at stake. We win this game. And, you know, we've been here before as a team. So I think it'll be a real gratifying one.
There are those weeks of the season when, you know, Andy had to, you know, really challenge you guys. Has this been one of those weeks when they've challenged you?
Yeah, big time, man. You know, I would say it's always a challenge, you know, with Coach Heck, just the expectation in the room. And, man, we're truly chasing perfection, which is the reason we have 2 All-Pros in there. And, you know, he does a really good job making sure every single week, no matter who the opponent is, man, he sets the standard high and he approaches the week like that and holds us accountable. And we do the same amongst each other.
Well, there's been lots of criticism of your play, contract, all that stuff. What's been the key to you keeping a consistent mindset?
Yeah, man. Just understanding that, for me right now, man, the current goal is winning the Super Bowl, and that's really just been my focus. As far as all those other things, man, that'll be taken care of by my agent and however things are worked out on the business side. So I just been trying to focus on that goal, man, and to me, that's what's most important right now.
That is Orlando Brown. I can tell you, Orlando, the best way to get paid, play your two best games here on Sunday, get the win, and then whoever you play, whether it's the 49ers or the Eagles, you have another really good game. That can help your chances at a bigger contract. No question for either the Kansas City Chiefs or another team in the NFL if they want to sign him to a long-term deal. If the Chiefs trade him, who knows? But Orlando Brown has a monster game coming up. What about Creed Humphrey? Last player we'll get to. Here's what the center for the Chiefs had to say.
It's going to be an all-time high because of having an injury, the risk of re-injury. I know you guys address the same things in practice every week, but has there been any more emphasis on staying clean?
Yeah, for sure. Being in the playoffs, these games are won and lost, in the trenches. So, whoever's going to be playing the best, as far as line of scrimmage goes, that's who's going to win the game. So we know we have a difficult job coming up. It's a talented front seven that they have, and it's going to be a battle. So it's going to be a fun game.
What have you seen from Patrick throughout the week? Take us back to Sunday when he was hurt, and then he came back in, and then what have you seen from him throughout the week? Is his progression?
Yeah, him coming back in just kind of, shows his toughness. We all knew he was tough. We knew he's competitive and all that. So, seeing him come in, finish the game, that was, really cool to see. We know he's a tough guy and we knew he could do it. And, I feel like he's progressing well right now. He's doing some stuff in practice. He's starting to, feel, how he should feel, coming up game time, So I think he's excited to be able to get out there and compete. And that's, that's how he is. He's a competitor. So it's going to be exciting to see him play.
They pushed you guys a few more times than the Bengals did in the last matchup. I just think, one, what did you feel like you guys learned in that? And are there things that they're doing now that are even slightly different from the blitz package that they should have in the last game?
Yeah, they game plan really well. Credit to their defensive coordinator. He's a great DC, and they got great players to go along with that. So they do a really good job. They bring a lot of different looks at you. They throw a bunch of different looks at you, things like that. So, we're just going to go in there, be prepared, ready to play concept football, and trust what we're seeing, trust how we play and play with awareness.
Green, I know you want success as an offense for this. Is there a strong desire to run the ball a lot when you get to the playoffs and get to these goal games like this?
Yeah, I think every offensive lineman would tell you, we want to be able to run the ball effectively. So, yeah, definitely. That's kind of a big thing for offensive linemen. We want to be able to win the battle up front, be able to run the ball effectively, be able to keep Pat clean, things like that. So, definitely going in there, that's definitely something we want to do is be able to run the ball well this week.
Have y'all seen something what it's going to take to kind of dominate the trenches?
Yeah, just playing smart, sound assignment football, playing with extreme effort and, playing with awareness too. So we know they have a very talented front seven, so it's going to be a good challenge for us. We're excited about it though.
How much fun are these playoff games? How much fun is it to be able to play in the playoffs?
It's awesome. It's a dream of mine since I was a kid, being able to come in here and play a big game. So, I don't take it for granted for sure. I'm having fun with it. Had fun with it last year too. So, just coming in here, having fun with it and, just playing how you can play. That's kind of the main thing you have to do. So it's been fun so far though.
You said fun. I saw Orlando's TikTok of you. Did you figure out where the crib in your closet was, or had you actually figured that out before?
Yeah, I didn't even know what it meant, I guess. But yeah, it was a song apparently from around 2014. So I guess I was listening to that song and tweeted that out.
Creed Humphrey, fantastic. But he's right. I think Andy Reid, and you heard Orlando Brown say it, I think Andy Reid went up to them and said, hey, this is your game. Keep him clean, and we will win. I think this is a big-time effort from this offensive line. And I said, Orlando Brown, my big chief, he plays well. I think this Chiefs team will end up getting a win. We'll get a timeout. We'll talk a little NFC title game. We'll also get to a little KU and K-State hoops. We'll get to all of that here in this final hour of Mic'd Up. coming up on Sunday. AFC title game and the NFC title game. Eagles versus 49ers out first. McCaffrey back at practice. Elijah Mitchell isn't at practice. A little update there for the NFC title game. I think the Eagles win this thing. I just think the Eagles pass rush is good. I think their secondary can slow down. I think their offensive line can neutralize the 49ers. I really like the Eagles. I think the Eagles find a way to get a win. I think the Eagles win this thing by about a touchdown or so. The spread in that one is 2.5. And how about this? The last time, all right, maybe you can, maybe we'll give you an opportunity here, Kyle, to answer this trivia question. The last time that the AFC and NFC title game were this close when it comes to point spreads, both conference championship games featured point spreads under 3. Dolphins versus the Jets, Cowboys versus Washington. When was the last time the point spread was under 3 points for both games?
You're saying those are the 4 teams that were involved?
Yep. Dolphins, Jets, Cowboys, Washington.
Sounds like it's sometime in the 90s. I want to say 90, 91, 92, somewhere around there. I might be completely off.
1982.
Ooh, so a full 10 years off.
Yeah, that's the last time you've had these 4 teams be this close together. That's pretty incredible when you think about it. That there's really not a lot of separation from these two teams. It's really, really close. Just let everybody know that the 49ers, if they don't have Christian McCaffrey, I think that is a real uphill battle. I think he's that big for that team. I really, really do. So I got the Eagles winning. I think they're going to win a game that's probably going to be around, I'm going to say 26. I'm going to say 26-20. I'm going to say the Eagles win 26-20, and they head to the Super Bowl. So I'm going to go with there. What do you got for the NFC title game?
I might go a little bit bigger spread for the Eagles, something closer to like 20, 27, 28, 16.
So you like them big. You think the Eagles are going to smack them.
Yeah, their roster is just so much better. And when I close my eyes, I can't imagine Brock Purdy in the Super Bowl in 2 or 3 weeks from now. And I feel like the Eagles could blow them out. Could be a late score or something like that to boost it up to like 10 points, but I think it'll be something closer to 10.
The Cowboys beat the 49ers if the Cowboys don't turn it over. If Dak doesn't throw interceptions. Which, by the way, Dak having a rough go of it. Apparently his girlfriend broke up with him. It's a tough go for Dak Prescott right now.
Luckily, he has tons of millions of dollars, so
that will
he's
help
got
him.
that going for him.
He does. He has that. He also technically doesn't have to work tomorrow. You know what I mean? So that's another positive for Dak Prescott. Let's go to the basketball side of things. KU, K-State are playing coming up tomorrow. KU taking on Kentucky. And right now, and I'm going to double check this because I'm surprised that KU is the favorite. The line opened up KU minus 1.5. That was a surprise. And if the line is out for KU, then it's got to be out for K-State. But let's see what the Jayhawks, can they lose 4 in a row? I think it's Sunflower Showdown. Let's see here. KU. It's not listed there yet, at least on my good old FanDuel app. Ah, here it is. KU. 1.5 point favorite. Nothing else, just the spread pick right now. What about Kansas State taking on the Gators of Florida? And we don't have a spread yet for for Florida versus K-State. There's no spread for that one yet. Yeah, nothing yet for K-State versus Florida. I'm going to guess that one's probably going to be about 5. Little info about Florida, if you're wondering. Florida really good defensively. They can't score. They are not a good offensive team. Picture Iowa State, but a poor man's Iowa State. That is basically Florida. So if you are Kansas State, you just take care of business yourself. You should be able to put up plenty of points. You should be able to win this basketball game. K-State offensively playing well. And again, Iowa State, I want to make sure I put this, they're the 8th best defensive team. The 8th best defensive team. And K-State put up a ton on them. Now, Florida's the 12th best team, but again, they are bad on offense. So K-State, take care of business, do what you need to do. You win that game, you keep rolling forward, and you're looking at a top 3 seed, to be honest with you, for the Cats. But I like K-State to win that one. KU, Kentucky. I have no clue. I have no idea what to expect for KU in Kentucky. I want to take KU. I do, but they are on the struggle bus right now. I would not touch this game at all. If you're betting on this, you are simply betting on the fact that KU, they ain't losing 4 in a row. That is all that you're betting on, because everything else says, yeah, I gotta side with Kentucky. You just say KU's not going to lose 4 in a row. That's it. That's all you can say. Otherwise, you shouldn't have that much confidence in the Kansas Jayhawks right now. Because then they got the Sunflower Showdown coming up, and I want to double check this. Yeah, 7 o'clock. Okay, who are you going with? You got to make a pick. I will take Kentucky. There's no reason for me to ride with the Jayhawks right now. I'll take Kentucky. KU loses 4 in a row.
See, I don't think it's going to happen, because Kentucky, outside of these last couple games, they were so bad.
They were so bad. Yes, they were.
Like you think that KU's having it bad right now. It was worse for Kentucky to start the year, and they don't play nearly or even close to as strong of a schedule as KU plays. I think it'll be very close, though. I might be a little bit surprised that KU is favored, but not completely shocked by it. I think ultimately they'll win, especially after they got blown out by Kentucky last year. I think maybe Bill Self will be a little more motivated to not get embarrassed again.
I would not bet this game. Like, I'll take K-State to cover the 5 if that's what the spread is. I'm going to guess that's what it is. If it's 8 or 9, I'd take Florida. But I dare you couldn't get me to wager on KU Kentucky. No, sir. Not you're just going, okay, I got to pick one of the 2 teams. So coin flip, let's go with Kentucky. That's probably what I do. You crazy if you're betting that game. Absolutely crazy. Fulton's got KU and K-State winning. He's not doing the emotional hedge. That's a problem. He's got KU winning 79-75, and he's got K-State over Florida easily, 82-70. 82 on the Gator defense. This could be a rough one for our guy. It really could. It really could. Coming up next, we'll finish our final touches on Chiefs versus Bengals. Give you a final look at what is going to make a big impact in this game. We'll get to that coming up here to finish off this edition of Mic'd Up. AFC title games. You can hear both those games right here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. It is the Westwood One broadcast. Kevin Harlan will be on the call for the first game, 49ers versus the Eagles. And then Ian Eagle will be on the call for the second game in the afternoon and / evening, 5:30, with the tip-off coming from Arrowhead. We cannot air the Chiefs Radio Network feed. We're sorry. We wish we could. Don't get mad at us. Please write to the NFL at, where are they at? Fifth Avenue, Park Avenue, I think, in New York. Don't get mad at us. But the NFL, they got the rights to the AFC and NFC title games and the Super Bowl. So we will have the Westwood One feed. The last thing that I will give you when it comes to the Bengals and the Chiefs are how well that they are playing. Here is what the Chiefs' pass defense has done here recently. All right. Chiefs defense has been pretty good here recently. The Jaguars, they were below average. All right. When it comes to these numbers, just remember here that right at the baseline is where the Jags and the Chiefs were when it comes to the Chiefs pass defense. So the Jags were just right smack dab average. They were excellent against the Raiders, very good against the Broncos, and their best game of the year, pass defense-wise, was the Seattle Seahawks tied with the Tennessee Titans. So they've played very well. The Texans was about average, but the worst passing game of the year for the Kansas City Chiefs was against, you guessed it, the Bengals. Nobody had a better day passing than the Cincinnati Bengals did against the Kansas City Chiefs. Tough go for the Chiefs. 26-31, got no pressure, nothing. What about when the Bengals are on defense? The Kansas City Chiefs had the second best passing performance against the Cincinnati Bengals this year. Fun fact, do you realize that Tyler Huntley and the Ravens had a better passing game than Josh Allen and the Bills? You guys realize that? That's right. That's how bad the Bills were. The Bills were so bad against the Bengals. So bad. But the Bengals pass defense had a tough time against the Kansas City Chiefs. The offensive line for the Bengals, we will find out if the Chiefs edge rushers can get to the quarterback. I agree with Jeff Kerr. We had Jeff Kerr on in the 1 o'clock hour. He says that the backup tackles, Hakeem Adeniji, also Jackson Carman, he thinks they're going to take on the Chiefs edge rushers one-on-one. I don't think, and I'm starting to lean that way. The more and more I look at it, I think that the Bengals offensive line is going to say, hey, who would you rather give up pressure to? Chris Jones or George Karlaftis, Mike Danek, Carlos Dunlap, or Frank Clark? Let one of those four guys beat him. I know that Kappa is not going to play, and he was a big help in stopping Chris Jones, and you got to back up there. The best way for the Kansas City Chiefs to compensate for a potential Patrick Mahomes that is very limited is on the defensive front, you take advantage of 3 backup offensive linemen. And on the offensive side, you have to take advantage of having Joe Thuney and Kadarius Toney and perhaps Mecole Hardman on the field. You have to take advantage of that. Nick Allegretti did a decent job. The Chiefs ran the football well against the Bengals. They did. The problem was Andy Reid didn't use it late, and the Chiefs fumbled the football at midfield when they were up, driving to go up 2 scores. So many different ways that we have attacked this game when it comes to offensive line for the Chiefs, defensive line for the Chiefs. The Bengals right now have the most confidence in themselves in this game. Jalen Watson, he will be playing in this game. He didn't play the last game. So there are 4 guys really that were so big. No Hardman, no Tony, no Tooney, and no Jalen Watson. The only player who played in the game, or who didn't play really in the game for the Bengals, was Mixon, and Pirine still had a really good game. And then Hayden Hurst, the tight end. Played, I think, 7 snaps, got hurt. So where do we think they get offset? I see a lot of people also pointing out that, hey, Jake, look at the Bengals earlier this year. The Bengals earlier this year lost their first 2 games of the year. Joe Burrow just coming off an appendicitis. I can tell you those are not fun. Not fun at all. Lost to the Steelers, lost to the Cowboys. Then they lost to the Ravens and lost to the Browns. And I'm seeing all of this that if they lost to the Browns, the Cowboys, the Steelers, lost to the Ravens, then anybody can beat them. They are playing some of the best football since they beat the Chiefs 27-24. Beat the Browns by 13, beat the Bucks by 11, beat the Patriots in a low-scoring game. Of course, the Bills game was canceled. And the Ravens didn't play a full set of people, but beat the Ravens and then beat the Bills. They're playing better than pretty much anybody is in the NFL. So I don't take a whole lot of that when it comes to the weight. I really don't. I don't look at, oh, well, the Browns beat them 32-13. The Cowboys beat them, and so did the Steelers. That's a completely different team. A completely different team. Here's hoping that the Kansas City Chiefs are a different team since the last time that they faced the Bengals. Our keys to the game, we gave you them in the noon hour. Red zone offense. Chiefs and the Bengals have 2 of the top 5 red zone offenses in the NFL. Who gets into the end zone with the touchdown? Who has to kick a field goal? That is going to be so big. And then 3rd down conversions. Now, this is mainly for the Chiefs defense because Cincinnati, in their last 4 playoff games, they went 7 of 13 on 3rd down versus Baltimore, 6 of 10 on 3rd down against Buffalo, 8 of 14 on 3rd down against Kansas City in the title game. The one game that they struggled on 3rd down, they went 3 of 15 in the Super Bowl. And it's no surprise. Why did they go 3 of 15? It's because the Rams had 7 sacks in the game and Joe Burrow was running for his life. 3 of 15. They had 7 sacks. You get a sack, there's a great chance that they got to punt the football. The last other close game that the Chiefs, or excuse me, that the Bengals did have was that game against the Titans. Ryan Tannehill doesn't throw an interception. Titans probably win, but they sacked Joe Burrow 6 times. Can the Chiefs front 4 get to Joe Burrow? And I think they're going to let him do everything. I think they're going to say, Akeem Adeniji and Jackson Carman, we got faith in you. Go get it done. I think that is the key for the Kansas City Chiefs to slow down the Bengals. I think this is more about the Chiefs defense than the Chiefs offense, because I think the Chiefs offense, as long as Mahomes is not totally gimpy. Remember, they still put up points against the Jaguars in the second half despite Mahomes' ankle. And it looks as though Mahomes' ankle is going to be better than it was in the second half against the Jaguars. And if his ankle is better than the second half, I think the Chiefs will put up points. And is this the game that Andy Reid has been saving the 3rd and 1 plays for? You, me, the dog, everybody yells and screams at 3rd and 1 when the Chiefs can't get 1 damn yard. with Humphrey, Tooney, and Trey Smith. They can't get 1 yard. I think this is the game that Andy Reid pulls out all the stops. I think Andy Reid has been saving those 1 yard plays. This is what I'm telling myself to make myself feel better. He's saving those plays for this game and then the Super Bowl. Andy Reid, we know, saves plays. We have figured that out. Is this the time? 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. He's not just going to run fullback dive up the middle, run him right up the gut in 14 personnel. No, does he get creative? Does he get him on the edge? There will be probably 2 or 3 times in the game on Sunday where it's 3rd and 1, and we're going to lose our proverbial minds because the Kansas City Chiefs can't get 1 damn yard. And if they get 1 yard, they probably win the game. All right, prediction. What do you got?
I've got the Chiefs. They'll be close. I'll say 28-24. Be a 4-point game.
28-24. I got the Chiefs winning. And I got the Chiefs winning 30-27. Harrison Butker at the gun from 50. That's right. In Butker, we trust. 30-27 Chiefs. We all are just nervous as hell. Waiting. Snap, hold, kick. Butker sends us through. The guy that we were always worried about sends us to the Super Bowl. Coming up next, we'll finish things off with the mic drop.
if the Bengals win. I don't want to see what Twitter's like after that.
You might have to shut her down for a bit if you're a Chiefs fan, because it's going to get ugly, right? You know that, right? It's going to get real bad. Real bad. Oh, and if you love Patrick Mahomes and Burrow balls out and wins, oh, buddy, this is going to be a long offseason for you Chiefs fans. It really, really is. If the Chiefs win this game, they will make the Super Bowl 2 of the last 3 years. 3 of the last 4. And Patrick Mahomes will have a 3-2 record in the AFC title game in 5 years. That's incredible. Chiefs win. Harrison Butker at the gun. You heard it here first. Coming up next, we got 580 Sports Talk. We'll talk to you on Monday, hopefully with a Victory Monday.